So I actually threw it out to my followers on Twitter, my personal followers actually, who are, they're a vigorous bunch, let's
Okay.
say. And I asked them what they would love to hear from you. And we got all kinds of questions. So I'm going to
Okay.
throw them out to you.
Cool.
Feel free to pass on some of them.
All right, let's see.
Let's see what they're doing to you.
All right.
I saw him in a Jubilee YouTube video earlier this year, and he agreed with the statement, anyone can become rich if they work hard enough. So what are his thoughts on how privilege affects your financial life?
What do you mean by privilege?
So
Like, how would you define
I
that?
would give I actually just in our last interview that we recorded gave what I think is a pretty clear-cut example to me of privilege. So I came from a background where I did not have a lot of money growing up. And I, mostly through my own idiocy, completely destroyed my credit, went into default, did a bunch of terrible things as a late teenager, early 20-something. And I did take it upon myself to take steps to rehab my credit that were accessible to everyone. Like I got a rehab credit card. I took steps with my bank. But the number one thing that allowed me to completely transform my financial life in a relatively short period of time is that my husband has excellent credit and was able to put me on his credit cards and was able to...
Authorized user, guys.
Exactly.
That's how you do it.
And very similarly, I was able to start what is now a profitable business that employs, a lot of people, relatively, because I was able to not take a salary for 2 years because my husband has a good paying job that had health insurance on which I was a domestic partner and therefore beneficiary. So to me, those are all examples of, yes, of course, I think I had a good idea. I think I worked hard to build these things. I definitely took as many steps as were in my own hands. But as a direct result of having that relationship in my life, I was able to achieve things that I never, ever otherwise would have been, at least not in that span of time. So that to me is what privilege is.
Got it. I think we're honestly all born with strengths and weaknesses. And I think there are some people who are predispositioned for certain things. Like I would say sports is one of those things that you could be a really talented person, but some people are predispositioned to be an amazing football player or such a good basketball player, or be really good at boxing or wrestling or whatever it is. So I think we all have strengths that we can play to. And I almost think of life and making money and stuff like that is almost a game of playing poker. So sometimes people are dealt a really good set of hands and they can play that really well just from the very beginning without much effort. Like if you get 2-3 kings in the very first time, you're going to do well. But other people, I think, who have like a pair of twos or whatever, can certainly bluff their way and play to those strengths. In terms of me specifically, I mean, I think I certainly had some advantages and some disadvantages. If you looked at me from just being, I had terrible grades, I didn't go to college, statistically, I should not have been successful whatsoever. But I had an interest in working hard and making money and saving as much as I can and really taking an interest to investing. So I think that helped. So I think anyone can play to their strengths, and I think anyone can learn, especially personal finance is something that you can absolutely learn. It's not something you're born with. So I think anyone can be successful, and I truly do stand by that.
Well, kind of on that note, actually. And it's funny because, so it's kind of become a meme at this point in the personal finance world. So most of the people that I would say follow TFD are not what I would refer to as like personal finance nerds. Okay. There are people who are definitely looking to get better with money, but they're not into like the gamification of money as much. And so they're very much like, I'm sure you've probably seen, there's this meme now where like a story will go viral on Twitter that's like, this 22-year-old saved $100,000. And then like by paragraph 3 of the article, it's like, and then her parents gave her a small portion of their real estate holdings, or they paid off her debt or what have you. So I think for, the people who follow us, it's definitely become almost a trope of the personal finance industry that once you scratch beneath the surface in success stories, there's often that kind of thing. And so to that point, the most common question we got was some variation of this, which is, how did he get started with real estate? Did he get any startup money from family, friends, bank loans, anything?
No, I did not. I was really lucky that I had two parents that were really, really supportive of anything I did. And I was lucky to be born into a family where, neither of my parents was abusive. Neither of them were, into drugs or alcohol or anything like that. And I grew up in a supportive household where both of them really encouraged me to pursue my dreams, whatever that was, whatever that would be, and they supported me from that angle. I didn't get any help financially from my parents in terms of them, like going and giving me money or anything like that. But in terms of emotional support, absolutely. I think it was a 10 out of 10 in terms of that.
So you financed all of your initial real estate acquisitions through money that you had generated.
Even working as a real estate agent, I paid for all of that out of pocket. I started working when I was 12 years old after school, doing marine aquarium photography. And it's a weird story how this started. I got a saltwater aquarium when I was 11 years old. So so I did receive some assistance from my parents when I was 11. As a kid. No, really, my dad did end up getting me a saltwater fish tank for Christmas, and that got me so obsessed with saltwater fish. I went on this website called reefcentral.com, and I'd go. It was a forum.
Shout out.
Yeah, and it was a forum where people can go and talk about the saltwater aquariums and ask questions and stuff like that. I'd spend like hours a day on reefcentral.com learning everything I could about saltwater fish. And there was this company that sponsored reefcentral.com, and it was called reefermadness.com or reefermadness.us at the time. We could bleep that out. It's like a reef tank, But anyway,
imagine bleeping that out.
They were one of the companies that was like at the top, like sponsored like banner ads on reefcentral.com. And I just happened to randomly meet the owner, Chris, it was one of these like aquarium places. And I was so into photography and like taking pictures of like reef tanks and stuff like this. And he offered for me to come by his shop. And I did. And I started taking pictures of like his livestock and stuff like that he was selling. And he offered for me to come in after school if I wanted to take pictures of stuff. And he wasn't going to pay me, but he would give me like little pieces of coral and stuff like that afterwards. So I would beg my mom, like after school, to go and drive me so I can spend like a few hours, I don't know, twice a week. I would go in like Tuesdays or Wednesdays or whatever, taking pictures. But that evolved to eventually 2 years later that I would be working like spring breaks there. My mom would just like drop me off in the morning and pick me up at night. And I would work spring breaks, I would work summer breaks, I would work holiday breaks, and I would do anything. Like I loved it so much, but I got to the point eventually where I started getting paid. And I started getting paid either hourly for the time that I was there, or I would get paid $1 for every picture I would Photoshop of their livestock and put on their website. So I would just, at that point, it was really like so much fun for me to go and like on Friday nights, when I first got my driver's license, that was when I started skipping school because I'd rather go there and work. But I would either skip school or I'd go like Friday after school and work until like midnight, just taking pictures. And like, it was fun for me to see how many pictures I could take. There were some nights that I could make like $120 in a night, and doing that at like 16 years old was so much fun. But I saved all of it. I saved a few $1,000s of that. And that's the money that I used to get my real estate license and to pay for all that sort of stuff.